Yo, what's going on? Today is a little bit of a different video. You've seen the title and the thumbnail. And yes, today is a very emotional day for some people, and explain why Easter is so important. And like I said, it's a big deal. So first, I would love to explain the story. I'm going to make this a two-part series. So you're going to see this Friday, and then there's going to be another one Easter. And essentially, I'm going to be explaining the reasons why this is so important. So let me get started with the story. So the Pharisees were not Pharisees are like Christians, if you would put it. They're Jewish people, but they're very high standard, right? So they're not good Christians, okay? Nonetheless, Jesus has tried many of times to say that he is the child of God, and he is. He is literally the son of me. And well, the Pharisees called that blasphemous. Even though that Jesus has proved himself multiple times, the Pharisees said, yeah, no, he's not. And if you don't know what blasphemy is essentially another word for mocking. Essentially, they wanted to kill him. So, obviously they couldn't find where he was. And well, that's when a guy that is a part of the disciple, the Bible states that he was possessed by the devil, and that is Judas. Now, Judas was very interested in money, so he knew where Jesus was, which was in the Garden of Gethsemane. It was like, hey, I'll do it for money. You know what I'm saying? So he gets his money. They know where Jesus is, so they go over to Jesus, and Jesus is praying before all this is about to go down, in the Garden of Gethsemane, and the Bible also states that he was literally sweating blood. And this is actually a real disorder. Whenever you get like very stressed, your sweat glands can actually rupture, which causes you to bleed out of your sweat glands. And like I said, it is a very interesting, which makes sense because, like, I mean, you're pretty much nervous because you know what's going to happen, right? You know that snow, yeah. The Romans, they come up, they try to take him, and Peter's like, hey, no. So he chops his ear off, one of the dude's ears off, and just like, nah, bro. So he puts his ear back on, heals his ear back on, and they're pretty. So yeah, even then, they still just decide, you know what? Let's kill him. So he does this whole court martial thing, you know what I'm saying? Whenever you're a uh, bad guy, then that's when the suffering starts. So I just want to let everyone know from this point on, it's going to be brutal. So if you're young, I advise you to leave, okay? Mainly because we gets very brutal. I'm going to explain the punishment that Jesus had to go through, the stuff that he had to go through, and well, all of it is just very brutal. But like I said, I know everybody wants to learn the story, but I want to show you the story in a brutal way, if that makes any sense. The story of what he really had to go through, because I feel like most of my audience is older, anyways. So let's start. What you would do is you would sit on like a block or something. I don't know. You'd be tied down maybe to a pole. Really. Anyway, so you'd be tied to a pole, and then these big old Roman brutes would grab this whip and beat you on the back. And essentially, this whip wasn't just a leather strap. It was it had stuff to yank flesh out. That's what happened. Every whip, 2 inches out, 2 to 4 inches of just flesh just yanked out. And no, Jesus had like 30 some lashes. Anyways, so after they get done beating him hardcore, they slam the crown of thorns, the infamous crown of thorns, on him, and the crown of thorns was dipped with poison. So that's also like even worse. And then they get a purple robe, wrap him around in a purple robe to mock him. And then it is a tradition for the guy to carry his cross to the crucifixion site. And I'm pretty sure Jesus like walked a good like 2 to 4 miles, I think. And I think like the cross weighed like maybe 160 pounds, something like that. So if you would have all that weight, you're basically carrying a dude. And not just that, but you're beaten, you're tired, you're just you can't do it. So you're done. You know what I'm saying? Well, he made it to his crucifixion site. They were going to nail him to the cross. Now, what the Romans did whenever they would actually nail each other is they would nail the wrist. Reason why the wrist, and the Bible says the hand, but if you really, the Bible back then there wasn't too much anatomy, so if you would think that they would consider this your hand, like the wrist part, it could have been the palm. This might be all, whatever. Nonetheless, but the Romans would do your wrist, mainly because there's an artery in your hand right here that if you hammer a nail in there, you're not going to bleed out. And the whole purpose is for you to suffer, not to die. So they would do that so you wouldn't bleed out. So they would put it on the wrists. And, well, Jesus was on the cross. And, yeah, there were two criminals beside him. I don't think the Bible states what they, or maybe, I don't know. I don't think the Bible states what they were on for. Nonetheless, one criminal on the other side said, hey, help me. If you're the Son of God, why not just save us all? That kind of thing. Just like that. And then the other criminal was like, hey, can I join you? I just said, yes, I'll meet you in paradise. So that's pretty cool. So that criminal went to heaven with Jesus. And the note is how gravity works. Every single word, every single breath Jesus would have to do, he would have to kind of yank himself up so he could breathe. And note the cross is not smooth like this. This is smooth, okay? It was rough. It was made to have splinters. The birds would eat you because obviously you couldn't do nothing and there would most likely be flesh hanging out of your carcass. We're going to go over to Peter again, and well, before, main thing, there were actually like the Romans were hunting down the disciples because obviously they were related to Jesus in a way. Related? What? They're friends, obviously. So they hunted him down, and Peter was not a good boy. He denied him 3 times, and how he denied him was he cursed to prove that he was not a part of Jesus, and this comes very important in later in part 2. Jesus says on his last words, Father, please forgive them, and he dies. And then there's a great earthquake, and that's when everybody thought it was over. But psych. So you're going to have to wait for part 2, which is on Easter. So everybody, thank you all for watching this video, and please enjoy. Like I said, I'll be making this a playlist, so there'll be playlists of stuff. I'm going to be doing this a whole lot more, mainly because I want to. And yeah. Thank you all for watching this video. I will see you guys in part 2. Peace.